Hello, friends. Welcome back to another interview right here on Love Wrestling. Spencer Love here with another one of my personal favorite wrestlers and personal favorite guests I've ever had the opportunity to speak to. TJ Wilson joining me for his second show, not second appearance on this podcast. But man, it's good to get the opportunity to chat with you again. Obviously, not a lot's changed in the world itself, but lots going on in the world of wrestling and in your career itself. How are you doing, man? What's new? What's wild? What's exciting?
Oh, man, I'm doing very well. I can't complain. This, selfishly, this pandemic has led to me sleeping in my bed just about every night. And I drive to Orlando and then I drive home. So, I mean, it's in terms of my usual travel schedule, it's really calmed down. In terms of obviously missing the fans in the arena, I mean, that goes without saying. But yeah, man, I can't complain. Definitely can't complain about anything.
Well, like I said, not a lot's changed in the world itself, but the one big change as far as WWE since you and I last spoke, the ThunderDome. How cool has it been for you to work in such a cool and unique environment?
It's cool because it kind of, I mean, obviously, like I said, we still don't have, obviously, the audience and the fans. But the ThunderDome is definitely, the Performance Center was, as it was last second we had to do something, and I think it was definitely dealt with as best as possibly could in that situation. And the ThunderDome is a typical WWE style where we jump up 10 or 15 steps, and the ThunderDome coming that first day to the ThunderDome was really cool because it felt like it was a big step towards a little bit of normalcy for us. I felt like it feels like now Mondays and Fridays I'm walking into an arena, and it just gives it that different feel. And of course, the setup is unbelievable. There's those LED boards are nuts. I don't know how many lasers we've got. We have like a lot of pyro, like you saw this past Friday with like Sasha versus Bayley. We had a lot of pyro on on their entrances that obviously we couldn't do in the Performance Center. So there's just little things that make it feel a little bit more normal. Obviously, like I said, it's for everybody. We're just waiting to things really start getting back to normal eventually, whenever, and we can get the fans back. But for the situation we're currently in, I definitely can't complain, man. I think everybody, talent from top to bottom, have made the best of this situation.
Yeah, man, once we get back to the real normal, not this new normal that everybody's talking about, right? But you mentioned Sasha and Bayley. The last time we spoke, you were working a lot with the women's division. Yeah. Is that still the case? And even on Sasha and Bayley specifically, how much fun has it been for you to sort of really see them fly the flag and be a lot of people's sort of MVPs of this crowdless era that we're in?
I mean, I don't know. It'd be, maybe I don't know if I'm biased, but I do work with them a lot. I don't know if they weren't the MVPs of pandemic wrestling, then I honestly don't know who is. But the truth is, if you watch, like a lot of our talent have stepped up, and especially a lot of the women. Like I was very proud of the Battle Royal on Raw maybe 3 weeks ago, right before the draft or the day of the draft, during the draft. I was very proud of that match. I thought it was very well done. I thought all the talent were great. And it's cool to see even like I worded that wrong, but like the triple threat this past week on SmackDown, with Natty and Ruby and Zelina, and the triple threat the week before I thought was very good as well with Billy, Natty, and Bianca, who I think has Natty, obviously her work speaks for itself. She's the longest. I don't know that there's been a woman that's wrestled in WWE as long as her for, without a break. Actually, I take that back. I know there hasn't. And then secondly, she has the most matches in WWE for a woman and the most wins. So her career speaks for itself, but you got someone like Bianca who has a ton of potential, and the sky's the limit. And I think Billie Kay is going to surprise a lot of people as well. Like, I think that triple threat opened a lot of eyes that maybe hadn't seen Billie in a certain light before. We already know that she has personality for days. We already know that. So it's good to show that she also, has some ring prowess as well.
Yeah, man, and it's got to be cool for you as a producer, as I would assume it would be for you as a wrestler, to get the opportunity to work with a lot of new talents. You mentioned Ruby Riott and Zelina, who's really starting to come into her own in WWE.
Yep.
How much fun do you have getting to work with new talent and get to work with them on sort of the production side of things?
It's very cool. It's cool. And like I said, when you see it click for somebody, it's a very cool, like I've trained people before and you see it, and now I'm seeing it I saw it a little bit as a talent, helping people and working with people, and now as a producer I see it often. To be honest, I see it often, and it's a cool thing. And I think, especially with the girls, I know I'm gonna be biased with the women, but it's a cool place for me to be. And little things like I said, I was part of that battle royal a few weeks ago. Well, the girls, if you talk about battle royals where it's only over the top rope eliminations, which is how the guys are, the girls haven't had that many. I would guess under 10, for sure. Under 10. It used to be if you rolled out onto the bottom rope, you were eliminated. So I say this all the time, but it's a bit of a game of catch up. But it's a cool game of catch up that I think I love being a part of, and I know like those women are determined to really catch up, and they are. And I know that doesn't take anything away from the guys on our roster too. We have an unbelievable talent on all brands across everything, guys and girls.
Yeah, man, it's one of my favorite questions to ask anybody in any of the major promotions. But what do you think makes NXT and Raw and SmackDown the best women's division in professional wrestling right now?
I just think, honestly, across all three brands, and I'm sure it obviously it extends further even than that, is just this wave of wanting to prove themselves. And I like, I did it as an individual. I was smaller in WWE and in wrestling, and I wanted to prove myself. And I understand that as an individual. What's really cool is they're not only doing it as an individual, but they're doing it as a collective group. Yeah. And I've never come across them wanting to phone it in or like just kind of get by. If you have an idea for them and they don't, if it works, it works. But if it's not like if they think that there's maybe even a little bit better idea, that they want to keep searching until we find something even a little bit better. Something may kind of work, but they want it even they always go out with the mindset of making it better. And of course, going out with the goal of making it the best, and then come back and then, kind of dissect what maybe could be better. And they take it all to heart. And it's, like I said, man, I don't know why, but in this last 8 months I don't know if it's maybe just because my travel's so easy. I just drive to Orlando and back. So I'm able to focus on things. I don't know. I don't understand, but I've really seen it a lot the last 8 months. Like I said, obviously, Sasha and Bayley have had, a big spotlight on them during this whole time being during this, last 6-8 months. Yeah. So of course them too, but not just only them. Everybody else on that women's roster has really stepped up, and it's so cool to see. It's cool to see that the ones in the lead are stepping up, and the ones that you would maybe consider at the back are also stepping up. So everybody's stepping up, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And when I think okay, there's been a few times where I'm okay, I don't know if I'm going to be a part of a match. Maybe it's going to be better than that. And then all of a sudden, a few weeks later, oh, never mind. That one may have been a little bit better. And it's a matter of getting trapped in those moments. And we're kind of creating these moments because, like I said, we don't have that audience there. So we're trying to do the best we can to, almost mimic having that. They're a big part. The fans are a giant part of what we do. And we knew that prior to this, and we know that for sure now.
Just been more reinforced, right? But you mentioned earlier there sort of your desire, the need that you had to be recognized and to push yourself. And you've talked before about needing to gain the recognition of your peers. I think, and it might be the confirmation bias being from Edmonton, that a lot of your peers have recognized you as being a great professional wrestler. But how cool is it for you now that a guy like Dax Harwood is recognizing you as one of the best producers he's ever worked with?
Well, what's so funny, I did an interview with somebody, and it was a few days after he tweeted that. What's really funny, I mentioned it there. besides maybe being the producer on a couple of live events, I don't think I ever actually had like his matches specifically.
Cool.
But I'm always available to bounce ideas around it. Once I get out of the meeting and I grab some food, I'm usually ringside, and I have my match or matches for that day. But that doesn't mean that I'm not able to talk to anybody else throughout the day, and I can only talk to the people I'm working with that day. That's not the case. That's not the case for any of us. Definitely not the case for me. And I think being, now it's been 5 years, but when I first came back as a producer, it had been 2.5 years removed from being a wrestler. So, and I wrestled. Now the locker room's changing a little bit, and there's guys that I haven't wrestled. But at one point, I wrestled almost everybody in that locker room when I came back as a producer. So I kind of had a relationship with them, and I still do, obviously. But so I think with a guy like I just am always going to call him Dawson, but a guy like Dawson saying that, tweeting that about me, I think that just maybe me and him kind of sitting in the locker room, kind of just bouncing ideas off each other, or like me seeing a matches and enjoying it, and maybe saying like, maybe just throwing out my 2 cents, whether he asked me for it or not. But but I also don't believe in like dictator style. Like I don't tell you exactly, this is exactly what you're going to do, and you're going to go do it. Mm-hmm. And that's, when I was the talent, most producers were like that with me, where I did have freedom, and it wasn't a dictatorship. So I'm going to pay it forward, because that was the way I worked best. When I was in situations where it was these are the orders. Sometimes I understand if these are specifically the orders, I get that. But when I feel like it's kind of not necessary, so I try to work in the same vein as, hey, here are some ideas I have. What are your ideas? And let's collaborate. And I think, honestly, collaborating is my favorite part of the day.
Yeah, man. Collaboration, not dictation, right?
The collaborating is my second favorite part of the day. Then my favorite part of the day is seeing it executed, and when it gets executed even better than like I imagine it in my mind.
Yeah, man. Speaking of great matches and rarely seen matches, I know you're a connoisseur of both of those. What was your reaction to finally getting to watch Bret Hart and Tom MaGee?
Oh man, how cool was that? So
right,
Harry, like people know I have a very good memory. A lot of the people who know me know that I have a very good memory.
Yeah.
Harry also has a great memory too. I don't know why. I don't know why the two of us have a pretty great memory, but he remembers watching that at Bret's house before. And so he kind of remembered the finish. And then when I saw the match, like when they showed it to me, when I did that piece on social media, like whatever, WWE.com, whatever, wherever they posted it, that was, I could kind of remember watching it at Bret's house, like kind of fuzzy, foggy memory. But man, it was very cool to watch it back and kind of see like what I thought was most cool was that like it lived up to the legend of like this pretty good match that if you later on, and I'm not trying to knock them, but if you watch other Tom MaGee matches, they don't look anything like that Tom MaGee versus Bret match that we finally got to see. So
yeah,
it holds up to the legend of like Bret definitely did his part that night.
Oh man, and like you say, it's nothing against MaGee. It's everything for Bret Hart. Like he could proverbially wrestle a broomstick and carry it to a great match, right?
Unbelievable. I've watched so many. I mean, I've watched a lot of his matches in real time, and I've gone back and watched so many of Bret's matches, especially the last. Like I said, my travel is much easier. So with this pandemic, I've watched so many of his matches back, and it's just like, it's unbelievable, man. His matches. I think he's maybe even pretty underrated, which it might be kind of a weird statement to make, but I think Bret might be fairly underrated.
I wouldn't disagree with you there, man. Like everybody talks about him as a great technician, and rightfully so, but there was so much more to him as a professional wrestler than that.
Oh man, and just the little things, and even like, you know, his promos obviously got better, but even his promos, like still in 92, 93, like they're, at least they feel real. They felt real. And I mean, 97, I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, like he's really untouchable. This guy. He looked phenomenal. His work was just as great as ever, and his promos were insane.
Right? What was your relationship with like him? Because with him, excuse me, to phrase a sentence fucking properly. You brought up when you were brought up to WWE, you know, Natalia references you as Bret Hart's #1 protege. How much of that is conjecture? How much was he an influence on your wrestling career as a trainer and just as a member of your family?
Huge influence because, you know, growing up and it's just, you know, the way it worked out, like at that time frame, Bret's the guy. So when he's like, my best friend's uncle is like the world champion, it's a cool thing. So as you know, I watched obviously a lot of, I'm probably super biased, but I watched a lot of Davey and Owen and Jim and Pillman and other guys like Dynamite and guys that like had starts in Calgary or a little bit of time in Calgary, like a Liger and all these guys later on. But at that time, obviously I'm watching the family that are in WWF at that time, but I'm really but Bret's at the time where I'm really like, I start coming around in like 1990. So like 92, Bret's world champion. So it just was, I guess, a natural progression that I would maybe kind of navigate towards what he was doing.
Yeah.
But there was a while in like 96, Teddy and I were going to Bret's house like every day after school to train in his ring. And sometimes he'd be in there and sometimes he wouldn't. This is like right before he came back to wrestle Steve Austin.
Yeah.
That's far. And he would be there and he took a real interest in us. He took a real interest in us when he saw us wrestle at the Saddle Dome I don't know if he's re-signed yet at that time. It's October 5th, 1996. I don't know if he's re-signed yet at that time or if he ends up coming back to Raw that month. And then that's when it sets up the Steve Austin match. But he comes to the show and I remember like he loved watching us wrestle. I think it just was maybe now that I'm 40, I have my nephews and I brought them to my ring a month ago. I get it. Like I saw them like wrestling around. You kind of get like that youth and that like almost invigoration. And I don't know if that was a part of it or Bret just anyway. But he's always taken a liking and he's always been somebody that I've been able to talk about wrestling anytime. And as great as the storyteller as he is in the ring, he might even be a better storyteller outside of the ring. So like to sit and listen to Bret's stories are so fun.
Oh yeah, man. Even watching those like confessions of a hitman that he's doing right now, just incredible. Absolutely incredible, man.
His memory's nuts, man, and his attention to detail, which you see in the ring too. It's very so. My point being, I can text Bret at any time, and he might text me back instantly. Like we have a great relationship. It comes to wrestling, again, a great relationship. I'll always be so proud that we got to tag up a few times.
Absolutely,
you know, including once at MSG. So like that's something that can never ever be taken away from me. So, and so I hold that very, very dear to me.
You love to hear it. I also wanted to talk about that match on October 5th, 1996. Maybe just take me a little bit through it because not only was it your first match with the WWF, but it was a tribute match to Matt, if I remember correctly, right? So maybe just take me a little bit through that and how it came about, if you could.
So Teddy's younger brother, Matthew, we were wrestling probably the end of June. We were wrestling in the ring up at Stu's. We would record our little matches that we had. And at that time, we had started to like experiment with like started to learn how to do like a Frankenstein off the top rope and stuff like that, which very, very against the Hart family rules and very against Stu's rules. But
and I was gonna say, wasn't Harry like 11 at the time?
Oh man, yeah. He's 10. He turns 11 in August, but he's 10 at this moment.
Holy shit.
So we're wrestling 2 days before, then all of a sudden Matt just felt really sick. He said his groin hurt, and then he had like something crazy, like 104-degree temperature or something. He goes to the hospital. We went and visited him that night, and he was kind of like delirious a little bit. he was just saying like odd things. And that'd be the last time that like would ever hear him speak. That I'd ever hear him speak. He went into a coma that night or the next morning, and then he's there for like 2 weeks or something. Yeah, like he went there Canada Day, and then he's there for 15 days or 14. Yeah, and he trying to think. He just like at one point his like leg turned like the color of your shirt, like completely black.
Holy cow!
And like his arm, and then his other arm, and his leg, and then. He was he was on life support, and it just was one of those. It was terrible, and it was this the first time I ever really faced death, but really the first time I like that, and it was someone younger than me. So I think it really put like mortality into like a very real,
like just a real scope.
Yeah, for us as kids. Anyway, then. Out of that, we wrestled at Rockyford that year, which is we'd wrestle like every summer. Rockyford would do two shows at Rockyford. So we wrestled Rockyford on the Saturday. Then Sunday we went. Owen flew us to International Incident, and we were in the ring wrestling the day at that pay-per-view. I remember I was just telling the story to somebody in the locker room, but we're in the ring wrestling, and like Jim Cornette and Vince ended up walking down the aisle, obviously talking about the show. And the guy who had us in the ring was this guy named Matt Miller. And he's trying to whisper, like, guys, get out, guys, get out, guys, get out. But, like, we're kids and we're so nervous, man. We're just, like, wrestling this match. We couldn't wrestle on the fly. We're wrestling this match that we'd, like, rehearsed. And
yeah. We can't just bail out of it now.
Yeah. It was like, oh, and the next thing I know, like, oh, Vince is at the ring, and like we roll out, and then so I don't know, like somehow then one thing led to another. We hung out with Carl DeMarco that night, and then next thing you know, he was a part of like wanting us to. Carl DeMarco and Davey Boy were big proponents of us doing this match at the SaddleDome, and then. It doesn't even feel real, man. Every day after school, we'd go up to Stu's, and we'd like, again, kind of rehearse this match. And like, in our minds, it was WWF, so we had to go all out. So we were doing everything possible. And at this point, we'd already come across Rey Mysterio. Bash at the Beach '96, and then ever since then, like our style changed a lot, and we started getting in trouble a lot more from Stu. So thanks, Ray. But we thought like we don't know like wrestling rules at this time. We're kids, man. I just turned 16. Harry just turned 11. Teddy's 16, and our other friend is like 15. And he doesn't even. Our friend's cool. He was a very good athlete, and he just kind of stepped in to help us so we could do a tag match. And like he didn't like wrestling wasn't really his thing, but he helped us for these couple matches. Anyway. Dude, next thing you know, we're at the SaddleDome the morning of, and the ring set up, and we roll in, and we do this match that we practice. It's probably like 12 minutes long, maybe 15 or something. It's like wild. I'm doing a dive through the ropes. I'm getting backdropped over the top rope, and I can almost take like a 450 style bump. Like it was so ridiculous. And I think somebody saw us doing that earlier in the day and was like, what are these kids doing? And then I think they realized we're on the show. And then like next thing you know, Jack Lanza is telling us that we only have 5 minutes, no two guys on the floor at the same time. And now like, but man, fast forward 24 years, if I was the producer of a live event right now, and let's say Roman's nephews roll up, and they have a tag match, and I see them in the day doing superplexes and stuff.
You guys are going to have to tone it down.
Yeah. ABL asked me about it one time. He's like, hey, Tyson, were you in that match with Harry when you guys were kids? And I said, yeah, that was me. He's like, man, you guys went out there and did everything, and it made no sense, but you did every move. I said, yeah, exactly. We were 16. I was 16. He was 11. Yes, we did everything we could think of, and we had way more planned. It just we had to go to the finish, or Earl Hebner said he was going to ring the bell, and we're all going to look stupid.
Wouldn't be the first time it happened, but c'est la
No.
vie, right? You talk about Stu there, man, and I love the fact it's always cool for me. You always hear about him as this shooter and almost like this angry dude, but you hear him like giving you guys shit about the rules of wrestling. Natalia told a pretty cool story a while ago about him holding a picture of Luther Lindsay in his wallet and no one else.
Yeah.
Have you got any good Stu Hart stories that I guess wouldn't get me in trouble with the rest of the Harts?
Just, man, like there's funny ones. Like he'd come down to like stretch us when we're training in the dungeon once in a while. I remember him coming one time. There was like a film crew, and this one guy who I'm friends with. So I can't out him, but I remember him hiding behind the door, and then like kind of once Stu came in and he left like almost like an episode of The Simpsons where all of a sudden you hear the car peel off. And I was like, dude, what are you doing, man? Like it's an honor to be stretched by Stu in the world of wrestling. Especially we had a bunch of amateur wrestlers and stuff at that time, so we had guys that understood like that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And he's like, no, man, he's a little bit older. He might not know his own strength anymore. I said, dude, I didn't know Stu when he's younger, but I think I'd rather be stretched by Stu when he's older. And I feel like he's maybe more of a gentleman than when he was younger. I feel like I could be wrong, but I got stretched by him a bunch. I'm still allowed to talk about it. He didn't forget his own strength or, kind of lose control. So I'm still here. Trying to think, man, he had a pretty funny sense of humor. He would, a very unique person. My Japanese trainer had a funny story. That one time after Stampede Wrestling on Friday night in Calgary, they're at a pizza place, and I guess Stu at the time had a beeper. Helen was calling him and paging him and wanted him home. And so the guys had ordered pizza, so they were inviting Stu to sit down, but now he went and called Helen, and he had to come back home. And they were like, Stu, do you want some of this pizza? Do you want a couple slices to bring back? And he said, yeah, no problem. He took it, and then rather than get a takeout container or something, my trainer told me he was he was giving him napkins to kind of put. He said, Stu, just put in his jacket, his suit jacket, put the 2 pieces of pizza for Helen. So whether or not she ate that, I don't know. Whether or not she knew that it got just put in his pocket. If she did know that, then I can tell you she didn't eat it. If she didn't,
I was gonna say they're very contingent on one or the other.
Yeah, but he just is a very unique but always thinking of other people. Like there he is, probably hungry, but he's getting pizza for Helen, but he did it in a very Stu Hart style way and just puts the pieces in his pocket. And my Japanese trainer was super sharp, so I know he's not just he told me the story a bunch of times. He's not just making that up. So
he's either committed to the bit or it actually happened, man. Mm-hmm. You and I talked a ton about Tokyo Joe last time you were on the podcast, but we really didn't talk a ton about what happened because of Tokyo Joe and going over to Japan and wrestling in the Best of the Super Juniors a couple of times, even getting the chance to wrestle Thunder Liger when he'd trained in Calgary with Stu. Maybe just take me through that experience and how you sort of felt being one of the early sort of adopters of one of the premier tourneys in the world.
It's funny. It's almost one of those things so the training was so hard that in the middle of it, you're just like when you're doing it kind of in real time, you're just kind of wait each day to get over so you can okay, can't wait for this session to end. But then you can almost come to this conclusion of why am I so excited for it to end? Because once it ends, that just means there's this countdown until it begins again tomorrow. Then you start to kind of just fall in love with it. And that again goes back to Bret. The gym he was training at and the trainer that he was with, I don't know if their gym shut down or they left. And now they came to Teddy's dad's gym. Mm-hmm. So now Bret was there training a few days a week. And so then that's when he saw us training with Joe. And it was very funny because he would kind of, the first couple times he'd watch for a few seconds and kind of do his thing. Then the next couple times he's watching for a few more minutes. And then he's watching.
Almost like he's trying not to get caught.
Yeah. And then next thing, he's told me many times, man, the training you guys did, he said it was I think it was taking him back. And he said it's very similar to the training he did with Sakuraba and stuff. Mm-hmm. And just So I think it just took him back a little bit. And so when he kind of explained that to me, and in the moment of just how he said, man, like, I can't believe the kind of wrestling training you guys are doing. Like, this is how wrestling training is supposed to be. Then it made me like, and I obviously already was, but made me very proud of like the training with Joe. And it was cool that like Bret got to not see the final or finished product of it, but he got to see the actual, like he got to see it going down, and he got to see kind of how Joe was with us and how smart Joe was when it came to wrestling, man. I can't even begin to scratch the surface of it. But then it just was, he prepared, and again, it's one of those things I didn't realize in that moment, but he prepared me for everything. Like, not that WWE is easy, because it's not, because it's a 52-week-a-year thing. And if WrestleMania is our Super Bowl, then the very next day is Raw, and it's a big Raw. And so it's a regular season game the next day, if not even a playoff game the next day after the Super Bowl. Like, it's crazy. And but Joe helped me gain this crazy amount of like physical for sure, but this different level of mental toughness that well, we'll see. It hasn't been broken on me yet, so maybe there's a breaking point. But in the moment, it hasn't been broken yet, and that's literally all credited to Joe.
Yeah, man. And it's one thing I've always wanted to ask you, because on the surface, you look at your career, your injuries, being part of the Hart family and all of that. Anytime you and I have talked, man, like, you're such a positive individual. You've always been such a positive influence on many of the individuals I've talked to. How do you maintain that positivity when, again, on the surface, it looks like it may be pretty hard to at some points?
Sure. And, it's like anything in life, it's not always positive, but sometimes you got to, what I find kind of works for me is trying to remove myself from the situation and kind of look at it a little bit more objectively, which is not always easy. So what we do is when what we do is done best, there's a lot of emotion attached to it. So if there's a lot of emotion attached to it, to get there, you have to channel something, and it has to, and so it can be hard to separate yourself, or even post-match to like come down off like this emotional high. And it takes a while, and I understand that. And I think for me, I don't know, it's kind of how I've kind of been wired this way. And I think especially once my in-ring career ended, and I've preached this a lot to a lot of talent, as like eventually every single person that's on the roster right now, one day they will all have their last match. I don't know when, I don't know where, and I don't want it anytime soon for anybody, but I just know that eventually everybody will. I've had mine. I didn't know that going in that day that this would be my last match. I didn't know the day before it was my second last match. Yeah. We don't know sometimes. Once in a while, you may know. Once in a while, you may have the privilege of saying, like, when I get to this day, it's over. I've had a career. Anyway, my point just being that when you look back, I promise you the things that might be bothering you right now probably won't bother you when you look back. The things that like maybe were like annoying to deal with in that situation, you'll probably just laugh about, and you'll literally reflect on like the good times. I mean, and I'm just speaking from my experience. This is how I view my career, my in-ring career, and what I do now is all positive. It's it wasn't perfect. There were a lot of things, a lot of times I thought I could be utilized better, and that's fine. That's my opinion versus other people's opinions, and that's fine. I'm not looking for someone to agree with me or disagree. I just know my value in the ring and where I thought I could at the very minimum get to, but at the same time, I also was wrestling for the top company in the world, and I've been there ever since 2006. So I can't, at the same time, I also can't complain about that. So, like I said, it wasn't always positive, but you got to find little positive spins. And my theory also as a talent was that any Monday, the next Monday could be your Monday. Like, I'm not booked on Raw this week. And my go-to example of this is I was sitting at a Raw once, and I see a graphic for the next day for like superstars, and it was like myself against Yoshi or JTG, somebody, which is fine. And I saw Jamie Noble, and I said, "Hey, Jamie, if you get a chance in the meeting," I said, "I understand how these meetings," and I didn't understand. Now I actually do. I didn't. I said, but I kind of understand how these meetings go. If you get a chance, are you able to? If you could try to get it switched to like me against Trent, just like it'll like I always like my chemistry with Trent. If you can get that, I haven't wrestled him in a few weeks. It'll be fun. And Jamie's like, "Yeah, no problem. That shouldn't be a problem." So the next day I'm working out and Jamie sends me a text and he's like, "Hey, it's you versus Trent on Superstars." I said, "Awesome. Thank you so much." Then he texts me back like 20 minutes later, still at the gym. And I see like Jamie text me. I'm like, "I wonder what this is about." And he's like, "Actually, match changed." And I was like, "God damn." And he's like, "Now it's you versus Swagger. You're qualifying for Money in the Bank." So like, any next Monday could be your Monday. That week, the day before, I didn't think, "Hey, I think I'm gonna be in the Money in the Bank this year."
Yeah,
I didn't think that, and then I was in Money in the Bank that year in Phoenix. So any Monday, the next Monday could be your Monday, or if you're a SmackDown talent, next Friday could be your Friday. It could be. You may not be booked this week. You may not have been booked the 3 weeks prior, but next week could be your Monday, your Friday.
I love that mentality, man. Like, people always look at this plans can change with WWE and AEW and all the other promotions as this inherent negative. But like you say, it's not always a negative when plans change, right?
It's not a negative at all. Obviously there are times where it can be, and it can be a little bit defeating to a talent who maybe saw themselves factored in for this thing. But in terms of the things change, I mean, welcome to life. I'm a basketball fan. We were supposed to get the Lakers versus Clippers this year in the Western Conference Finals, and guess what? We didn't get that. So plans change, and all of a sudden the Lakers are playing Denver in the Western Conference Finals. Like, plans change. It's not the end of the world. Like, the world changes, and sometimes you have an idea, and maybe when you kind of see it coming to fruition, maybe it's not the maybe it's still good, but maybe it's not exactly the way you saw it. So maybe you change course. And I don't know if that's a bad thing.
No, man, I don't think you'll find a lot of Lakers fans complaining right now either way anyways, right?
They're worried. Some of them are worried about those Clippers. They don't want to admit it, but they're worried about them. So they're happy with the way things turned out.
We'll hold on to that one until the next interview, man, because, I will say that as a Toronto fan, I'm not a huge basketball guy, but I've still got a soft spot for Kawhi. I would put myself firmly in the Clippers boat before the Lakers boat, but that's neither here nor there. I've got a couple more for you before we close her out here. One's sort of a big major question, and one's crossing off the journalistic box for you. So let's start with the easier, I would think, one first. What do you feel your legacy as a professional wrestler is? Because you mentioned earlier that maybe you weren't utilized sometimes how you would feel. I've heard the word underrated thrown around about your career at points. You talk to me, you're one of my favorite pro wrestlers of all time. There's a wide dichotomy out there as far as your reputation, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. So when you look back on your career, how do you feel, you sort of stack up, or what your legacy may be?
So, well, first off, I really appreciate you saying that. So I've thought about this a bit. For me, I think, I'm very, and I probably said this last time because I say this a lot, but I'm very, very happy and grateful that I got to have that body of work for that last year of my career, going back to, at May of 2014 to May of 2015. I got hurt on June 1st. So May of 2014 to May of 2015, I'm very proud of that body of work, and I'm proud I got to show a larger audience that I did have charisma, that I have the most of all time. No, of course not, but that I had some, or maybe a lot more than people thought, or that I got to show a little bit of my backstage personality out there a little bit, was maybe kind of a conflict that I had, because I definitely have personality backstage. Anybody that has been around me will probably tell you that.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of kind of finding what works on the other side of the camera. And like I said, I'm very proud of that year's work, because I think I got to prove myself to to, a certain number of our fans. But I think in terms of like legacy like that, and the thing that means a lot to me is I believe fully that I'm respected by my peers. And to me, that's my highest accolade that I could achieve in terms of everything else. Everything else is almost a bonus in terms of that. I just wanted to, I remember like being a kid, being like 18 and thinking about like WWE, and I remember thinking like, I remember seeing like a thing that like, and I so say for example, like X-Pac, he was called Six-Pac and then X-Pac. And I was like, okay, like in my mind, I'm like, oh, he's a Tupac fan. So like I could be friends with him. We talk about rap music, and then I could being friends with him. I could be friends with Hunter, Sean. Like in my mind at 18 or whatever, I'm thinking of these funny scenarios.
Like the political game almost.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, but really just looking, like, not even looking for a game, but just to have friends. So, like, I'm not this hated guy in a locker room. Which, luckily for me, I've never been that guy. And I always think about that, too. Like, I remember going to Japan for the first time and being like, okay, well, let me think. Anywhere that I've ever wrestled, I've done well, and I've gotten along with all the guys. So why should this be any different? And then then that was the case in New Japan. And then I wrestled in England for a while, and the guys there, I got a message from one of them not too long ago. It was like, hey man, like, I'm not just saying this, but like, you were always like my favorite American/Canadian guy to come over. Like, we always, like, a lot of us thought you were the best. And I'm not saying I'm the best, but like, this guy sent me a very nice message that meant a lot. When my wrestling career is done and I get these kind of messages, it means a lot to me. And so I remember going to WWE, like, first developmental, and thinking like, well, again, like, I got along with everybody in England. I got along with everybody in Japan. Got along with everybody. The one time I did Ring of Honor or Jersey All, like, everywhere I've ever wrestled, I've always gotten along with everyone. So why would this be any different? And you go in nervous and anxious, and then it turns out that it is exactly the same. And I have the same reputation and relationships on the main roster. And it's just, so to me, like, that's, in terms of my in-ring career, that's my legacy. But the funny thing that I think, and I truly believe, is that when it's all said and done, that's my goal anyway, when it's all said and done, I will have a bigger legacy as a producer than as even an in-ring performer. Which I wouldn't have known that. I would never have guessed that 5 years ago, 10 years ago, even 2 years ago. I would never have guessed that. So where that came from, I don't know.
Well, you're off to a hell of a start with it, if I do say so myself, but that's only one man's opinion, man. You've got to get everyone else's, which you've already done a great job of doing. Like I said, I've got to cross one journalistic box off here, so excuse me for prying. But a couple of months ago, Natalia sends a tweet out saying, I finished a wrestling practice in our ring. TJ Wilson ran our practice with Dr. Tom Pritchard. Wish I could tell you who I trained with. Who are you training with?
Yeah, we've had some people come by. Natty likes leaving little hints out there, little secrets to kind of keep people interested. I've had a lot of people come by. I've had I guess mostly the women so far. I work with a couple. One is Jason Kidd. He's a local guy, not under contract, not yet. He's very talented. He's very good and a cool guy. I'd like to see him get a break. I was actually excited. Chucky was supposed to come down here in November, but the flight got canceled, and obviously I understand
all the right reasons. Yeah,
he was gonna come down and train for like a week and just hang out, and because I just want him to. It's funny, once people see him, then it's like, for him, it's off and running. He's too talented, and it's just a matter of time. I tell him all the time, it's just a matter of time. You're just this hidden gem. Don't worry about it. I understand, but don't worry about it. So I was excited for him to come down and kind of wrestle with Kate and wrestle with like the girls, like Liv's been there, Naya's been there, Tamina, Lana. Lana a lot, and I think, you know, and I'm proud of her, and I think Lana has shown a lot of improvement over the last, I don't know, let's say 8 weeks, 8 weeks. So she's been there a lot, Lana, and she trains hard. When Lana comes, she comes to train hard. Ruby's been there. Sasha's been there. I'm trying to think.
Basically the who's who of the WWE women's roster.
Yeah, almost as of now, yeah. And because we're not doing live events, so I have this ring that's like 20 minutes from my house, about an hour from Orlando. So it's Lacey Evans been there, another person that I see a ton of potential in. So man, it's been so fun. Like I was saying this the other week. So like I had let me think. Sunday I had Hell in a Cell. Monday I had Raw. That week we trained on Tuesday. We trained Wednesday. We trained Thursday. I had SmackDown on Friday. I believe Saturday we trained. Sunday we trained. And Monday I was at Raw. Tuesday we trained. And I had that next Wednesday we didn't. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, this is back to like me being a talent again, where I haven't been this engulfed by wrestling since I got hurt. And I'm like, not that I fell out of love with it, but I was able to kind of turn wrestling off once I got hurt, and I was able to kind of do this producer thing as a job, kind of, to some degree. And I could kind of turn it off when I was home. And over these last 8 months and you know, working so much with the talent I've been working with, that like now, whether good or bad, now that faucet is just like cranked up to full, and I can't turn it off again. It's back to when I was a talent, and it's a cool feeling. And it's like I said, I just feel super sharp. Like if I'm producing at TV or if we're training in the ring, like I obviously can't do much physically in the ring, but I can point out a lot of things, and I almost sometimes like surprise myself, like, wow, I didn't even realize that, like, oh wow, that's cool. That idea worked. And you just start to almost I don't know, almost like not fool myself, but almost like not be in awe of myself, but you're like, wow, like you just become so sharp being around, like when I'm around wrestling 11 days in a row, I'm in a ring, not me wrestling, but I'm in a ring and putting stuff together for 11 days in a row and breaking down wrestling and the philosophies of it. You become really, really sharp, really, really fast. Or
the wheels start turning again.
Yes, and tools that I hadn't used all of a sudden like come back out. And I remember all these little tricks that I had as a talent and that I stored away for whatever reason, because it just turned that part off for a little while or whatever. But yeah, man, it's I'm back in terms of that and the cooking, like with gas. So it's good. It's good. It's good and bad. Now it's back to where I watch wrestling all day long at home, and I'm thinking of ideas for matches that like I have nothing to do with whatsoever, but I come up with like or little spins where I watch them at. I think most of us are good at this, I got to get better at it. I think most of us are good at this. I'm good at breaking something down when it's happened in 2020 hindsight and be like, well,
you could have changed this, and that.
Yeah, maybe switch. So now what I've gotten better at the last couple months for sure is those ideas hitting me before the match happens. So then I throw them out and just say, hey, you guys might hate this. If you do, I'm okay with it. We don't have to do it. I'm just going to throw this out there because I don't want to say it to you after your match. And you go, oh, I wish we thought
that would have been great.
Let me just throw this out there. If you don't like it, cool. If you like it, cool. We can go from there. So I've gotten, because I believe I'm being like, I'm going to work out in a little bit, and then we're going to the ring to train a little bit today. And yeah, it just keeps me super sharp. And then I have Raw tomorrow, so like I'll train again Tuesday, Wednesday. I don't know. I'll probably train Thursday, and Friday I'm at SmackDown. And like it's cool because, like I said, we don't have live events and stuff right now, so it's cool for people to come in and get some reps or come in and work on some stuff, or try something new, or I can show them like a different way to express aggression in the match, and certain things like that I think are kind of my specialties. It's been such a fun process. Like I said, getting my own ring this summer really opened up a whole different world in terms of like breaking this stuff down and thinking about it all the time and things like that.
Yeah, man, it's almost like you're back at BJ's with Chucky, BVD, and Plexus, and that, my friend, is a very good thing for professional wrestling as a whole. If your mind's in it somewhere, man, it is a huge benefit for us as fans, just as for me. Dude, as always, it's a huge, huge benefit for me personally, a huge honor for me personally when you take the time for me. Thanks again for the interview today. Thanks again for the time. Right on the dot, my dog starts barking in the background. So let's wrap it up with letting you plug where people can keep track of you, Workhorse Fitness, anything else in the world of TJ Wilson. Where can they find you?
I'm on Twitter at TJ Wilson. I couldn't get that handle for Instagram, so I added the 7-Eleven, which is my birthday. So 7-Eleven is pretty easy. 3 numbers to remember.
Well, and it's a good sponsorship opportunity for you.
Yeah, you know, free Slurpees on my birthday for everyone. Not from me, but from 7-Eleven. But you can pretend it's from me if you want.
We'll put that part in the fine print.
And then, very, very small. And Workhorse Fitness on Instagram at Workhorse Fitness Products. And website is workhorsefitness.com. And no, I appreciate you having me on, Spencer. It's always good chatting to you. You always have a pretty positive take on wrestling. And I know that you always want wrestling to be better and the platform to keep growing. So like it's cool to be on I have all the time in the world to help people out who want to stay on like the positive side of things. 'Cause it's easy to try to, especially in today's environment with things going on, it's easy to go down that negative rabbit hole, but let everybody else go down there, because there's more than enough people down there that, I try to stay. It's a funny thing. Sami Zayn will quote it sometime, or Colt Cabana got it from Lanny Poffo about, well, there's 2 buses. You can ride the sad bus or the happy bus. The choice really is yours. However you're booked, that's just how, and it's very hard. You got to try to take away the personal aspect of it, but it's almost impossible. I understand the problem with it. Mm-hmm. Going back to what I said, with like the things that bother you in that moment that you end up like before the day that it happened, and it wasn't a personal slight towards him. It was just he and I actually are very good friends to this day. It was just the direction things were going at that time. And I wrestled Brodus on SmackDown, and he beat me in 12 seconds. Mm-hmm. And earlier that day, I had a very serious talk with Johnny about my release. And I tell Johnny all the time, I'm glad he didn't give it to me, because I don't know, who knows how, that butterfly effect, I don't know what would have changed. Yeah. So I just I'm glad he didn't give it to me. I'm glad we worked things out. But, and again, it wasn't a slight towards Brodus. It was a lot of things building up to that moment. Mm-hmm. At that time, my contract was I had like another 5 months or something on my deal that I was just trying to ride out, and just kind of thought about maybe going to Japan. The truth is, I didn't want to leave. I just wanted to kind of be positioned a little bit better. I don't need the world, but I just want a little bit. Mm-hmm. And it's fine. And, we all go through those frustrations. But my point being, now when I look back at that 12 seconds, I laugh about it, and that'll be my joke to somebody. Like, well, it could be worse. I got beaten 12 seconds. I believe me, I'm still here. You'll still live. You'll be okay. So, yeah. But you laugh about it. You laugh about it in hindsight, and in the moment, I understand it. Like, I know personally, like, it's not. Some days you're the dog, and some days you're the hydrant.
I love it, man. I absolutely love it. It's a reason you are a huge influence on me, and you're a huge asset to the professional wrestling industry as a whole. Thanks again, man. I always appreciate the time.
Thank you very much, man.
Anytime at all, and thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully, this means that I haven't buried myself enough, that we will see TJ back on the show again sooner rather than later. But whether it's next week or next year, stay tuned to Love Wrestling for more interviews right here from me, Spencer Love.
Hell yeah. I'll be back.